station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. 2 men were found unconscious in Park City in what police think was a carbon monoxide poisoning. The Park Record reports it happened yesterday afternoon at the Treasure Mountain Inn. The 2 men were reportedly in a stairwell in the parking garage sanding concrete using equipment powered by a generator. The building was evacuated after. High levels of carbon monoxide were found in the garage and other locations of the building. A new study from the University of Utah shows procrastinating going to sleep can lead to worse mental health. KSL News Radio's Josue Sanchez has more.
The new study shows people who are putting off their sleep are more likely to experience symptoms of depression. Psychology graduate student Stephen Carlson says bedtime procrastination is not just from poor time management, but could also come from feelings of anxiety before bed. He says a lot of people start to look at their phones before bed to cope with the feelings of anxiety.
Carlson says if you are experiencing irregular sleep, visit with your doctor. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump is back at the White House after cutting short his trip to the G7 World Leaders Summit in Canada.
President Trump told reporters on Air Force One he returned to Washington because he would be, quote, more well-versed, meeting in person with his national security team to talk about the situation between Israel and Iran.
Being on the scene is much better, and we did everything I had to do on the G7. We had a good G7.
The president signaled frustration at the status of nuclear talks with Iran, saying they should have made a deal. He again issued a warning if Iran were to target U.S. assets or personnel in the region.
Well, we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people.
Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Your money at this moment, the Dow down 87 points to 42,427. Coming up, it's going to cool off a little bit today, but it's going to be super hot by Thursday. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:01. The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous You Don't Need a Warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
When is the optimal time to file for Social Security? That could help you get every penny that is rightfully yours. Get the answer in a free report, your guide to filing for Social Security in 2025 and beyond. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, who's helped tens of thousands of families get the most out of their benefits. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. Timing, taxes, spousal benefits. This free report details the most critical things you must consider that could help you get the most income from your Social Security benefits today. Get this free report right now by calling 801-251-1046. That number again, 801-251-1046.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys. And I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But What I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Delays breaking up. Northbound I-15 still just minor slowing as you're going through Draper, Midvale, and South Salt Lake. A fresh crash westbound I-80 at State Street, and southbound delays on I-15 going through Farmington. Traffic's rough, but your parking lot doesn't have to be. GoPave Utah keeps things smooth and with expert asphalt maintenance at GoPaveUtah.com. That's GoPaveUtah.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather now today will be sunny, with highs in the upper 80s. Tomorrow will be much of the same, but temperatures are expected to go up into the 90s. Right now it's 71 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Yesterday, when we introduced the show, we talked about a number of events that had happened in our country over the weekend, including a double homicide in Minnesota. If you recall, a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband were shot and killed in their home late night, Saturday night, I believe, and then another Minnesota lawmaker and his wife were shot and wounded shortly before that. A man named Vance Bolter has now been taken into custody. He had a court hearing yesterday morning in state court, but it was interrupted because the federal FBI jumped in and said that they were going to take it as federal charges. To get more about information about this, we're joined this morning by Cami Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent. Cami, welcome.
Thank you.
And so we're going to shift a little bit because in response to this, our own Utah Senator Mike Lee has faced some backlash for some comments he made on Twitter. I guess it's called X now.
Yeah, X.
And can you tell us the context of what he did and what the source of the consternation is?
Yeah, absolutely. So really a lot of the backlash stems from a pair of tweets or posts on X, like you said, that he made over the weekend that basically just showed a photo of the alleged shooter in his mask. And Mike Lee basically, posted with some captions basically asserting that this shooting was motivated by leftist politics. He called the shooter a Marxist, basically saying that was the reason for these murders, without any evidence, without any knowledge of what the shooter's motivation might have been. And so that kind of sparked some backlash, especially from the senators from Minnesota who kind of said, please don't use, these murders, these tragic times to kind of poke fun at a very serious issue.
Yeah, can you give us just an idea of what, for example, Senator Tina Smith said to him?
Yeah, absolutely. So yesterday, while we were waiting for senators to come to the Senate in the evening, Tina Smith basically wasn't commenting to anyone in the hallways, saying that she was looking for Mike Lee. After she had a conversation, she basically said that she approached him, told him that what he did was not okay, it was not funny. She kind of said that he seemed surprised, actually, to be confronted, that he wasn't expecting it, but he didn't necessarily apologize or really have a reason for why he posted, but she was very clearly upset about the whole situation.
And has he or his staff done anything about the post? Do they still exist? Can somebody find them, or were they taken down?
Right, I actually did check this morning. Both of the posts are still up on his account. They haven't been deleted. There hasn't been any public statement from his team. I've reached out multiple times to get comment. A few of us even went up to Mike Lee yesterday in the hallways. He declined to comment. So it seems like they're a little bit quiet on this front. Lee's Twitter account itself has been posting other things since then, so it doesn't appear that he's taken a break from social media at all, but it kind of just seems like the issue is being, kind of pushed to the side.
So just to be clear, we've got a post that happened. I guess the first one is his post that said, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." and it had a couple of pictures of the shooter, one of them wearing the really creepy latex mask, and then the other one was Nightmare on Walt Street, and it contained two pictures of the two state legislators who were shot. One of them was killed. So yeah, Cammie, can you also tell us maybe what the deputy chief of staff for Tina Smith said? I thought that email was very pointed, but also poignant.
Yes, absolutely. So they did send a very wordy email, basically, not only to Mike Lee, but also to his staff, kind of berating them for saying, is this what you're proud of? Are you happy about what you did? You kind of took a situation and politicized it. It was a lengthy email. It doesn't appear that, Mike Lee's staff has answered. I've reached out multiple times for comment and haven't gotten anything. And so it kind of just seems like silence from the Mike Lee side, but clearly a lot of the Minnesota lawmakers and other Democrats even are pretty upset.
And I was going to ask you about that, Cammie. Did you reach out to Lee and his staff, and you haven't received any comment back, or you've received a sort of a no comment, or tell us what you've heard from them so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So far I haven't received any comment from his staff when I've reached out, over email or text message. When we did see Mike Lee in person, that's when we kind of got a no comment from him himself, but that is the extent of anything.
Well, thank you for joining us, Cammie, from D.C. I know you're really busy back there. We appreciate your time.
This is a difficult one, and I can understand both sides of this. I mean, Mike Lee probably didn't post something knowing that it was going to be rise to this level of offensiveness. Nightmare on Waltz Street. So a reference to the governor,
right?
Walz, but spells it waltz like
right.
the dance, which I don't know, tongue in cheek, kind of bad taste, I guess. And then this is what happens when Marxists don't get their way. I just. I don't know. I mean, he could post what he wants. It's his X account.
But here's the thing, right? So this is a problem that we see, I think, across the board. This is particularly notable, I guess, because it's coming from a sitting U.S. senator. He took a position, or at least the people posting to his Twitter account took a position that they knew the politics of the shooter, right? And as more information has come out, they were incorrect. This was somebody who considered himself conservative Republican. He voted for President Trump, said his friends and family. He was very pro-life and even a minister. So it's fundamentally untrue, right? So what we haven't seen is an apology or any kind of backtracking saying, I spoke too soon. I should have waited to find out more information, or I apologize for jumping to conclusions. There hasn't been any of that. And in fact, we have a Minnesota Republican who's a state representative, who said, Lee isn't immune from social media impulses. That is one of the drawbacks of social media, right? You can just post instantly. But he said he should apologize and then do better.
Yeah, and we did have one reporter that walked to him and said, hey, what can you say about this? And this is all we heard.
Do you stand by the post that you made on X?
He said, do you stand by the post you made on X? No comment
it's
at
crickets,
all.
Right?
Yeah. And then in an MSNBC interview, Senator Amy Klobuchar said that she condemns Mike Lee for his behavior, and she intends to speak with him about the posts.
This isn't funny what happened here. This was an incredible woman, her husband, her two kids yesterday on Father's Day. There was no Father's Day for them. They lost both their parents.
And you can hear the emotion in
Yeah.
her voice as she describes that.
Yeah, for sure. And, we mentioned Senator Tina Smith. There's some posts on X where you can see she's literally waiting in the hall. She calls him out. In fact, there's one I saw that said she found him, and it's a picture of her speaking to him in the hallway outside some of the Senate chambers.
Interesting that there hasn't been more of a response from the Lee camp in terms of not necessarily an apology. I mean, if that's what he felt like saying at the time, that's one thing. Maybe an explanation. He did make a post later condemning the action and said this has no place in.
Let's be clear, that was his official account, and this one is his based Mike Lee account, which is the one where he tweets the most often. It's very, very frequent that he's posting on this based Mike Lee account.
Yeah, and
so from his official one, he says this is terrible and we condemn acts of violence.
Apparently he posts quite often on it.
He does.
Didn't you say that there's been
Like
dozens and
it feels like hundreds of times a day. It's maybe not quite that much, but he's very, very active on X.
I wonder if this is another one, Holly, where Republicans line up on one side and Democrats line up on the other, and one side saying, hey, this is just talk, let's not make a big deal out of it, and some people saying this is really offensive and maybe we should make a big deal out of it. When we come back after the break, we're going to stay on this topic a little bit and follow up with some updates on this in terms of the charges that have been filed against the individual that involved in this, state and federal, and what's being said about that. We will be right back.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Hey, this is Dan the Laptop Man from PC Laptops. Myth. You might have heard that you need to spend a fortune these days to get a powerful computer. Correction. At PC Laptops, we wanted to prove that wrong. So here's the most amazing deal that we've ever done at PC Laptops for you in over 30 years. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Take one home today. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code POWER to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code POWER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain, and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk back here. You can do it if you try.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So, as we talked about in the first segment of today's show, we're really continuing to look at this deadly attack on state lawmakers in Minnesota. Vance Bolter, age 57, now faces state and federal murder charges after his arrest on Sunday night, which followed a massive 2-day manhunt that people said was the largest in state history. So he's accused of fatally shooting Melissa Hortman, who's the top Democrat in the Minnesota House, and her husband, Mark, in their home on Saturday early in the morning. Bolter's also charged with shooting and wounding Democratic lawmaker State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette in their home a few miles away. The suspect was accused of assassinating a Minnesota lawmaker and shooting another, but he also drove to the homes of at least 4 state politicians as part of a planned killing spree, U.S. authorities said on Monday.
Yeah, and this one's just continuing to unfold the more and more we hear about it. And actually, in the wake of this shooting, attack on state lawmakers in Minnesota, U.S. senators this morning are about to receive a briefing from Capitol Police about their own security. Here's ABC's Jim Ryan.
A list found in the vehicle of Minnesota murder suspect Vance Bolter included the names of politicians well beyond Minnesota, including Michigan Congresswoman Debbie Dingell.
They called and said the FBI that my name had been on the list.
Some politicians named in the list have canceled public appearances, but Dingell says,
I'm going to keep fighting for the people that I represent.
Against the advice of her staff, she went ahead with a town hall meeting last night in her district. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
And we've been provided this morning, Holly, with a copy of the federal indictment. It includes the counts that you described at the outset here, fatally shooting Melissa Hortman and her husband. But he was also charged with stalking both of them. So there's 2 counts of stalking, wow. 2 counts of murder, and then 2 counts of attempted murder in the shooting right. of the other lawmaker. Now, it's interesting because, and again, this sort of gets into this whole jurisdiction thing. There have been state charges filed against him for murder. He's also charged federally with causing their death by the use of a firearm, which under a U.S. law, it's hard to imagine a firearm that doesn't have parts that traveled in interstate commerce. So right. you can always charge a firearm charge federally because it involves interstate commerce. The difference is significant, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Minnesota hasn't had a death penalty since 1911. There was some controversy apparently in that state way back when. I mean, that's a long time. And they did away with the death penalty, and they've never brought it back. On the contrary, the federal government has reinstated the death penalty, and right. that only happened maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It wasn't that long ago when they brought the death penalty back. So it's not clear yet whether or not he will be facing the death penalty in the federal charges in Minnesota because the federal government doesn't have to make that election yet. But just looking at the indictment and the way that it's written, and I've got it right here, I've been reading it, it would allow, if authorities wanted to be enhanced to a death penalty case. Now, again, that remains to be seen how they'll do that. But you would expect with a double homicide and a 2 more people that were also shot and injured, right. that the authorities are going to take this about as far as they can.
Right. And, we talked about this yesterday again a little bit more, but he had a whole list, right? We were joined by a reporter yesterday who said he had a list of multiple, we know at least dozens of lawmakers on this list. And as we just heard from ABC's Jim Ryan, they extended beyond the state of Minnesota. It wasn't exclusive to there. But there were people, including the governor of Minnesota. We had other lawmakers from within Minnesota. We know that we had people who were pro-choice supporters who were on that list. And again, just to remind our listeners, this Bolter allegedly showed up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, banged on the door, dressed in what looked like a police uniform, red and blue lights on his car that were flashing in the background. And he's like pounding on the door saying police, like there's been a robbery in the area, shining this big spotlight through the door.
Yeah, but if you look at the picture of him, he's also wearing
Creepy.
this latex mask.
I know.
That he looks like a
Yeah.
zombie. I mean, but you have to imagine it's 2:00 in the morning. There's a car in your driveway that has red and blues on it. An individual at your doorstep wearing what appears to be a police uniform.
Right.
And he's got shining a light in your face, so you're probably not looking at the fact that he's got this really
Weird.
creepy
Yeah.
mask on, and they're probably thinking, okay, how can we help you? What's going on?
Right.
What could we do to help you out here? And all of a sudden, shots start firing.
Right.
And it was interesting because he had gone to the state senator's house first, injured him and his wife,
right,
and then went to the representative's house. Police were alerted to what's going on, and actually some of the officers went to this house where the homicides occurred, engaged in some gunfight with him.
Right.
That didn't. I mean,
it didn't injure him.
Yeah, and the homicide had occurred while that was going, or shortly beforehand. And then they have this huge chase. We do know from his roommate and his landlord, I should say, that he had made some comments on, I'm going to be gone for a while.
Right.
Don't wait for me. I mean, and he also had his weapons. It almost looked like when he was taken into custody that he was preparing for a standoff. He was preparing for something.
For sure.
Instead, it went just the opposite. He gave up fairly quickly.
We know that in his car they found 3 assault rifles. They found multiple rounds of ammunition. We know also that when he was confronted, in fact, the state senator who was shot but survived, between him and his wife, one was shot 8 times, one was shot 9 times. They both survived, but she was the one, as the light was kind of went down, she looked at him and said, "You don't look like a real police officer, right?" I think that latex mask. And that's when he started shooting. But yeah, you're right. One of the things that we see from his court appearance yesterday afternoon, he said he couldn't afford an attorney, but that he had $20,000 to $30,000 in savings. He owned his own home, had 7 cars to his name, and right now he has been appointed a federal defender.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that maybe caused some people to raise their eyebrows, but I can just tell you this: if it is a capital case, the fees for an attorney and something like that could potentially get
really high,
get to high 6 figures or more. Yeah. And there's also the possibility, and without getting too far afield here, that he could be ordered to repay the state for the cost of his public defender to some extent. So he may not be getting away freely here. The families could sue him as well. Do you remember the Luigi Mangione case? He shot the insurance representative.
The United Health CEO, yeah.
Right. As I look at the indictment here, Holly, it's very similar to the one in Luigi Mangione, because I was looking at it and thinking, how are they going to, make this a federal charge?
Right.
It didn't appear that he traveled across state lines. I mean, everything happened in Minnesota.
Right.
And are they going to make it a capital offense? And so it tracks that Mangione case quite closely in the use of the firearm, the description of how it occurred,
interesting,
sort of the whole stalking and everything. So the federal authorities in Minnesota can proceed the way they want. I'll say one other thing, just because I'm an attorney and I get to, but people wonder how, under a definition of the double jeopardy clause,
right,
that a person could be charged with a murder in state court and a shooting causing a death in federal court. And it happens. It's something that can happen because they're separate jurisdictions, they're separate crimes, they're separate sovereignties, if you will.
Yeah.
And it does happen. We've seen it here in Utah. We've seen it in other states. So it's not as though one's going to sort of override the other and we're just going to say, okay, let's just do the federal case and the state will stand aside. Both cases may be going on the same track at the same time. They may be pursued.
Yeah.
And he's going to be held in custody there. You know, whether it's federal or state custody doesn't matter.
Right.
Police are still going to bring him to court.
Right. Interesting. So just a little bit of a side note, Donald Trump recently said that he's not going to reach out to Walz.
I don't really call him. He appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him and say, "Hi, how you doing?" The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
a simple no would have been okay. I could call him.
Even then, I think just common decency says we can call and express condolences, right, when something this terrible happens in your state.
Yeah, and I think that both Trump and our own Senator Mike Lee have expressed those in their own ways, but reaching out to the governor would seem to be a courtesy. It's not something that's going to be done here. We'll see what happens on that case. We'll probably be following that fairly closely. We also spoke yesterday, Holly, about the No Kings rally here in Salt Lake, where a man was fatally shot. We're hearing from a group 5051, which helped organize it, and we're going to learn a little bit more about some developments and some things that we're hearing about the individuals involved in the shooting, the peacekeepers, and Utah's laws involving open carry of firearms. Stay with us.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are pushing back against the comments made by Senator Mike Lee. In an MSNBC interview, Senator Amy Klobuchar says she condemns Mike Lee for his behavior and she intends to speak with him about the posts.
This isn't funny what happened here. This was an incredible woman, her husband, her 2 kids yesterday on Father's Day. There was no Father's Day for them. They lost both their parents.
A Minnesota Republican Representative Nolan West posted that Lee isn't immune from social media impulses and said he should apologize and do better. Opinions on mail-in voting in Utah are literally split down the middle. A Deseret News and Hinckley Institute of Politics poll found 50% of registered voters say they would prefer to automatically receive their ballots rather than having to opt in to receive mail-in ballots. Party associations were a major factor in the poll results. 67% of registered Democrats say they'd like the current system, and 42% of registered Republicans say they prefer the opt-in method. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is making it clear he is not interested in peace talks with Iran right now. He spoke exclusively with ABC News chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl.
The Wall Street Journal reported that the Iranians have sent urgent messages to both the Israelis and to the United States that they would like to see the hostilities stop and nuclear talks resume. So I asked Netanyahu about that, and he was adamant that he doesn't want any part of so-called nuclear talks or peace talks with Iran right now. He called them fake talks. He says that the Iranians want fake talks so they can just delay and they can continue to develop their nuclear weapons.
Talks for a possible meeting between the U.S. and Iran are underway. Your money at this moment, the Dow in the positive by 8 points to 42,523. Coming up, we still have a few slow spots, and we've got cool-ish weather today. KSL Weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Wappett, Executive Director of the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, or the IDRPP, at Utah State University. Did you know that 1 in 4 Utahns have a disability? Think about that. Your neighbor, your colleagues, your family. At some point, disability affects everyone. The USU IDRPP is on the front lines, driving change right here in Utah and across the nation for people with disabilities. For over 50 years, IDRPP has been Utah's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, generating vital research that shapes effective policies and delivers real-world solutions. From groundbreaking research to evidence-based training, the IDRPP empowers individuals with disabilities, their families, and the professionals who support them. We're making our communities more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Find out more at idrpp.usu.edu.
Hi, I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, keep in mind, it's not just you.
My name is David. I was in trouble with the IRS. I owed about $140,000. It was a very stressful thing to know that you owe that much money to the IRS.
Don't face the IRS alone.
When I knew how much I owe, it was really, it's overwhelming. It's you worry about the whole, your whole world, what's going to happen.
With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
Everything was said and done, and Would the IRS offer me to pay $4,000?
You need someone to fight for you.
Do not hesitate. Do not think it twice. Go see Jordan Wilcox.
Visit endtaxworry.com. Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today. That's endtaxworry.com.
Anybody that needs help in this situation, please go see him.
endtaxworry.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Delays are breaking up nicely. Northbound I-15 just a little below freeway speeds going from Draper into the Sandy area, and then again at the South Interchange. For drivers headed westbound on I-80, we still have a crash that is off to the right at the as you're making your way onto westbound I-80. This is going to be between 7th East and State Street, so use some caution going around that curve. And then for drivers headed eastbound on I-84 in the South Weber area, construction and lane restrictions slowing you down there as well. Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, it's sunny with highs in the upper 80s. Tomorrow will be much of the same, but temperatures are expected to go up into the 90s. Right now it's sunny and 73 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We are following up this morning on some developments for the shooting that killed one person at the No Kings protest in Salt Lake City. If you'll recall, there was a march for this No Kings protest in Salt Lake City. There was a shooting that occurred during the march, or organized parade, I guess, a rally, I'll call it. 39-year-old Arthur Folasa Alu was killed. He was an innocent bystander. He wasn't involved in anything aggressive or doing anything that seemed to be inappropriate in any way at all. Samoan-born fashion designer. We're learning a lot about him as we go as well. But some questions have come up about these peacekeepers, and especially the organization 5051, which helped organize the No Kings rally here in Salt Lake, where the man was shot. Adam Small, KSL News reporter, is joining us this morning. And Adam, this group 5051 issued a statement, it looks like, yesterday. What do we know about the group and their statement?
Well, Greg, I looked around on their website, so it looks like they're a nationwide group, but they also have a branch here in Utah. So it's a joint statement between the overall group 5051 and then Utah 5051. It seems like they're a group. They organize the No Kings rallies here in Utah and around the country. But as far as the little bit of research I was able to do this morning, it looks like they organize rallies like this, not just the No Kings rallies, but other protests as well at various times. They didn't have a very good about section to learn a lot about their background, but the big thing to take away is that it seems like they were the main organizers of this rally in downtown Salt Lake City. And they released a statement because we haven't heard from them since the shooting, because the person who fired their weapon we've been told the last few days that it was a peacekeeper. That was the word that Salt Lake City police kept using. But we didn't really know who they were affiliated with. Well, now 5051 has come out in this statement saying that these peacekeepers are volunteer security. They are people, many of whom have military, first responder de-escalation training or backgrounds that stepped forward and said, hey, I'd like to help, provide some extra security, because this was an event where there were roughly, I believe the number I read from police was around 10,000 people marching in downtown Salt Lake City. So, they figure, more security, the better. And catching everyone up to speed if they don't know all the background of what happened in this shooting. So police say that one of these peacekeepers, one of these security volunteers that signed up for this event, fired their weapon at someone who allegedly had an AR-15 style rifle, was dressed in all black, and was wearing a gas mask, according to witnesses. And a couple of these peacekeepers confront this person, telling them to drop this weapon. They say that person then, picks up the rifle. It looks like in a firing position and starts running towards the crowd. And one of the peacekeepers then fires 3 shots at this person. One of those bullets did hit that suspect, who is now in custody. But then another one of those bullets tragically hit Afa Alu, a 39-year-old man who was an innocent bystander just participating in the rally. And to just a little bit more from this statement from the group this morning, 5051 says they don't identify the volunteer as the person who discharged their weapon. They're trying to keep everything very tight, close to the vest right now. It's an ongoing situation. They say the volunteer who was later questioned by police is a military veteran. Now, I don't know if that for sure is the person who fired the weapon, but it's kind of what it sounds like. But obviously we'll have to do a little more follow-up to verify. They're saying the person who was later questioned by police was a military veteran, and I believe that their group acted because they felt there was an imminent danger to these thousands of protesters that were trying to just peacefully exercise their First Amendment rights. So it really sounds like the volunteer was just doing what they thought was best to protect other people, but tragically just one of those bullets hit an innocent bystander who later died at the hospital.
One more question, Adam. Do we know from the statement that 5051 issued whether and to what extent they were involved in this, in getting the peacekeepers, or whether the two groups were organized together, the peacekeepers and the organizers, 5051?
So I don't know all the details yet about, basically how people signed up, who led that sign-up effort for these security volunteers. But considering 5051 is the one that's releasing the statement, and they've opted to, they don't want to do interviews right now, so we haven't been able to get a lot more details from them outside of what they've issued in a written statement. It sounds like they led the effort in getting the security ready. It does sound like they were the main organizers, but we don't know yet, again, all those details of who was encouraged to sign up, how they spread the word or anything like that. But it does seem like they were the ones that really led the effort of getting these security volunteers in place.
Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. We've been speaking with Adam Small, KSL News Radio reporter. So my question for you then, Greg, is we've had, unfortunately, a weekend of violence. So we've been talking about Minnesota, but we also had the No Kings protest. We had a shooting at Westfest, which is a community event, right? And tragically, 3 people have died, including an 8-month-old baby. We have a lot more public events coming up this summer, like the Days of 47 and the Great Big Freedom Festival in Provo over the 4th of July. And what kind of safety concerns should people have when we live in a state that allows open carry and what they call constitutional carry? Like what do we need to know there?
Yeah, I think people look at it from both lenses. One is a lot of people, Second Amendment gun rights people, feel like the more people that are armed, the more likely it is that you can take care of a rebellion or a violent person or an attack or something like that. Others feel like the more people that are armed, the more likely is that something will happen like what happened at the event the other night, which was that an innocent person was shot. So Utah is still part of the wild, wild west, and we absolutely honor, and a lot of us are gun owners here, our right to carry a firearm. And Utah has some interesting laws. I don't know that they're inconsistent with a lot of other states, but we do have the right to what's called open carry, and I think you mentioned that. That is to say, you want to carry a gun and the world can see it, that's open. Go ahead and do it. If you're of a certain age, I think it's 21 and over, it can be loaded and ready to go. If you're under that, it has to be unloaded, which means it can't have a round in the firing chamber. It can have a round in the magazine, but it would have to rack it or cock it or do something to get the well, I don't want to get into the details too much, to get the round into the firing chamber, so it has to be unloaded. But if you're open carrying, and I see this especially in the central or southern part of the state when I travel around, Holly, individuals who are carrying, they just have a gun on their side, sometimes on their hip or whatever, like a police officer would carry it. It's I don't know, at first you kind of look at it like, whoa, what's going on here? But it's the law, and you can absolutely do that. Now, I haven't answered your question about events like this. When you're going to an event like this, there can be restrictions on where you can carry a gun. For example, churches can restrict possession of a firearm. Certain events, like civic events and things where they say, look, we don't want guns here for whatever reason, as long as they're reasonable. In this particular situation, I think it would have been unreasonable under Utah law, probably illegal, to say, come to the rally, come to the march, but don't carry a firearm. I really don't think that our authorities could have done that. Well, I'll quit getting off on Utah law and guns. There's something I could spend weeks on. When we come back after the break, the Utah legislature is holding interim meetings. Holly's going to break down the top issues she has her eye on this week, including AI's impact on elections, after the break.
You know, in Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about Land Art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number 4th of July sale. Save over $600 on our King P5 smart bed, our lowest price of the season. Limited time. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not?
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We are learning this week that the Utah State Legislature is going to be holding some interim sessions to address some key issues in the state. I'm good with gun laws, but I do not know interim sessions. But I am lucky that my co-host Holly Richardson is here, who served in the legislature for a while and is the editor of Utah Policy, who can talk to us about that. So I know that the legislature meets, I think, in February for 40-some days.
It's 45 contiguous days, and it's the end of January to the beginning of March.
Okay, well, so all of February,
Yep.
with a little tail on both on front and back. What is the purpose of an interim meeting? Are they authorized by statute, or
Yeah.
is it something that doesn't require some special session from the governor?
Right. So there is a difference between interim meetings and special sessions. So that's a really good point. Interim meetings, they hold 6 times a year. So they don't have them in July or December. But what those are is a time for the legislators to get together and talk about issues that they want to address in the next legislative session. So, for example, today they're meeting to talk about appropriations, which is how they're going to spend the money. And people will come and they'll either give reports or they'll make requests. Sometimes the laws that the legislature passes mandates that certain departments or organizations have to come report back to the legislature. Those will happen during interim meetings. Tomorrow, they'll be talking about different policy discussions. So in my newsletter, I link all the agendas for these meetings, but basically you can figure that in the morning, they're going to have a set of committee meetings. They'll break for lunch, and then in the afternoon, they'll have another set. So a special session is one then that's called by the governor, where they're actually called into session where they take a vote. Interim meetings, they don't take any kind of binding vote, but they can talk about legislation that they want to bring up the next session.
And so are interim meetings then typically committee meetings and not general sessions?
That's right. They're committee meetings, so there's not really floor time unless the Senate is going to meet to confirm people, which will happen tomorrow, so they'll have some confirmation hearings. But it is bipartisan and bicameral, and by that I mean it's both houses. So it's a committee made of House and Senate members that will talk about one topic. So, for example, government operations. It'll have people from House and Senate, Republican and Democrat, and they'll all talk together.
So I hadn't thought about the confirmation, because I do know a couple of people that were recently appointed by the governor to serve
Right.
as judges.
Right.
And they can't wait until the last week in January.
Right.
So the interim session, they can the legislature, the Senate, can hold these confirmation hearings.
That's right.
To the extent that they have them, and say, okay, let's
That's
get
right.
this person on the bench.
So before the interim meeting, you will have a confirmation hearing with just the committee. So, for example, the Judicial Committee to talk about judges. And then on these interim days, you'll have the entire Senate get together to vote on the person that came out of whatever these interim committee hearings were.
Okay, and those are typically straightforward and not
Usually.
without some controversy, although they could be. But when you mentioned that we're also dealing with appropriations, I assume that's going to take a little more dialogue and a little more debate. Maybe not.
It's always interesting, right? So again, people have to come report how they're using state funds. If that's one of the agreements or one of the things set out in law, they'll have to talk about that. People don't really start doing serious appropriations requests until a little bit later in the year, but you start having those kinds of conversations, and they'll have regular updates, for example, on how the tax revenue is looking in the state of Utah, and if it is going down, if it's on track for what they anticipated, right? Because they're spending ahead. They're looking ahead and saying, okay, for the next fiscal year, we think we're going to have this much money. But if we actually have a downturn, then they have to go back and revisit. And actually, sometimes you will have a special session to say, look, we don't have as much money and we need to cut the budget. And so you'll have discussions like that.
And it looks like, Holly, there are a couple of items that are going to be dealt with in this interim session dealing with elections. Signature gathering, for one. It says AI impact on elections. I don't know what
So the Government Operations Committee, let me first say this. For any listener who wants to follow along, you can go to the state website, which is le.utah.gov, and on there you will see a calendar, and you can click on any of these meetings. They're live streamed. They're also recorded, so you can go back and listen later if you want to. So the ones that you mentioned actually are going to be in the Government Operations Committee, which is meets tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning. So on signature gathering, it says the committee will study existing law and procedures related to signature gathering and verification for candidate petitions, citizen initiatives, referenda, including recent audit findings, and proposed statutory changes. So again, they'll talk about, okay, let's look at how this process has worked. Let's look at where we see we can make improvement. Let's talk about proposed legislation, but they won't vote on anything.
Yeah, with respect to signature gathering, there has been some controversy in Utah about how that occurs, about the quality of it, the integrity of it. So I assume they want to meet and perhaps propose some things when they meet in the...
It isn't, yeah. So they're getting ready. They're already gearing up for 2026, and so this is one of the issues that will probably be on the docket when we hit 2026. We also have an issue of artificial intelligence, which we've discussed on this show before, right, where we're talking about the big, beautiful bill says, right now at least, it says that the federal government will make the rules for AI and states can't do it for a decade. But Utah has been leading the way, actually, in artificial intelligence governance. And so one of the things they're going to talk about tomorrow is the use of AI in state operations, but also looking at how AI might impact elections and political deep fakes. So a deep fake is one that looks...
I was wondering how AI could... how that applies to elections.
So one of the things that I followed a few years back, if you remember, there was a political operative who mimicked Joe Biden's voice. He did it through AI, and he used that to do robocalls to tell people to stay home from an election, right? So that's a fake, right? You can also have deep fakes where it looks real. It looks like the person is standing there giving a message or a statement, and it's all fake, right? So you can have somebody who can take your likeness, your voice, and create something where you're saying something outrageous or offensive, and it's actually fake. It's not actually you who's doing that.
And so does the state have, well, certainly they have an interest, but do they have the ability to regulate that in some fashion? Let's say you have it looks like Donald Trump is endorsing a particular person, but it's really not him.
Right. Right. So I'm sure that's one of the things they're looking at. I know there are federal and state statutes that address this. Certainly, we've had an increase in what AI can do. And so the legislature has already, for example, on AI-generated child pornography images, they're now illegal in the state of Utah, but we're looking at particularly politics. There is one other thing I want to talk about just briefly, and that's adoption tourism. That's one of the issues that they're going to be talking about tomorrow in a different committee. So
tell me what adoption tourism.
Yeah.
Is it more to do with adoptions or more to do with tourism?
Adoption.
Okay.
It has more to do with adoption. So I'm an adoptive mom, and this discussion will actually happen in the Judiciary Interim Committee, and that'll be in the afternoon tomorrow. But one of the things that Utah laws have on the books right now are laws that favor birth mothers, biological mothers that are placing their children for adoption. And so sometimes people feel like those mothers are coerced to come to Utah, and the biological fathers don't have enough notice to be able to contest the adoption, those types of things. And so they're actually spending a really good chunk of time in their committee meeting tomorrow to talk about whether agency practices are attracting vulnerable birth mothers and making it difficult for birth fathers to be notified.
And then one other thing I want to talk about, Holly, just because it's something that our governor put as a priority, and that is the use and sort of the talking more about nuclear energy. Do you think that these interim committees are going to look at that?
Yeah, so Public Utilities, Energy, and Technology, which is again in the morning at 8:30, they actually are spending most of their meeting talking about nuclear. So they've got 4 different topics that they're going to talk about: the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the nuclear test reactor, which is down with the San Rafael Energy Research Center. They're supposed to be done and have something up and running by 2026. Then they're talking about supply chain and nuclear manufacturing. So they're really hitting it hard tomorrow in interim committee.
Wow. Well, we'll be keep an eye on that, and I'm glad that we had Holly on the Hill to help me break all that down because I didn't have a clue about interim sessions. When we come back after the break, Provo has been ranked the #1 best city according to Wallet Hub. Provo Mayor Michelle Kafusi is on the line with us after the break to share her reaction and what the city is doing to manage the intense growth happening in Utah County.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, investors apparently like Utah's housing market. A new report from Realtor.com says 18% of home sales in Utah last year were made by investors. That rate is the 4th highest in the country, behind only Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas. A Utah lawmaker tried pushing a bill to prevent investors from purchasing single-family homes during the last legislative session, but it did not pass. Our top national story from this hour from ABC News. President Trump left the G7 summit in Canada early, just hours after Israel's prime minister told ABC News he will not rule out trying to kill Iran's Ayatollah. ABC's Perry Russum begins coverage from Washington.
Trump on social media with an urgent message last night to the 9 million people in Iran's capital, posting, "Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran." French President Emmanuel Macron claiming Trump's early departure from G7 may be a diplomatic move, claiming Trump made an offer for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Trump overnight denying that, saying he returned to Washington for something much bigger than that.
Israel's prime minister told ABC News taking out Iran's leader would be one way to end the war. A protest in Paris brought one of the world's most popular museums to a standstill. Thousands of confused tourists were left waiting for hours after staff at the Louvre refused to open the doors. An internal memo among employees warned the museum is wearing out with water leaks and temperature fluctuations, putting some of the priceless art at risk. President Emmanuel Macron recently announced plans to renovate and build a separate entrance for visitors coming to see the Mona Lisa. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 8 points to 42,523. Coming up, it's a little cooler today, but extra hot on Thursday. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
As a fan, you know all the important sports cliches. And when you save money by bundling your home and auto with Progressive, you can get out there and give it 110%, even though that's mathematically impossible. And remember, failure is not an option. Well, it's always an option, just not a good one. But you're not worried because you've got ice in your veins. You're on fire. How can both of those things be true at the same time? Well, that's between you and your doctor. So get out there and leave it all on the field. Leave what? Who cares? Just leave it and save with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey, it's Brian with Olson's Greenhouse. In today's busy world, your home should be your sanctuary. A peaceful retreat where you can unwind, breathe deeply, and recharge. And what better way to create that haven than with flowers? A pop of color in your flower beds, a cheerful container garden by the front door, or a lush patio filled with vibrant blooms can transform any space into a personal oasis. Flowers don't just brighten up your home, they lift your spirits too. Research even shows that surrounding yourself with plants can reduce stress and boost happiness. At Olson's Greenhouse, we grow premium quality plants that make it easy to bring beauty and joy into your life. Whether you prefer bold, eye-catching colors or soft, soothing pastels, we have the perfect flowers to complement your space. And with locally grown plants, you know they're ready to thrive. This spring, create a sanctuary of color and comfort with flowers from Olson's Greenhouse. Find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens or go to OGG.com to find a retailer near you. That's OGG.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner. Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Let's check in with Michelle Rowe.
We have construction that is causing delays for drivers that are making their way eastbound on I-84 going up into Weber Canyon. For drivers on I-80 looking at the clearing stages of this crash, this is westbound between 7th East and State Street off to the right shoulder, and a fresh crash northbound on the West Belt right about 4700 South, also off to the right. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialists. Whipple that away. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather will be breezy today, and the highs will be in the upper 80s, but then we go on a roller coaster with temperatures over 100 on Thursday, but down into the 70s by Sunday. Right now it's sunny and 74 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
WalletHub has issued its 2025 report of the best and worst run cities in America. 2 Utah cities made the list. Salt Lake City, down a little bit. But Provo, this is amazing, gets what? Number 1 in the country as the best run city in America in 2025.
Yeah, that's really incredible, actually, and we're going to be lucky to have the mayor on the phone with us. But just to set it up a little bit, WalletHub does a lot of these studies and surveys around the country, and with this one, they looked at 36 different metrics grouped into 6 service categories, and then they looked at the per capita budget. So one of the WalletHub analysts said that the best-run cities in America use their budgets most effectively to provide high-quality financial security, education, health, safety, and transportation to their residents. And many of the top cities also have a very low amount of outstanding government debt per capita, which can, of course, can prevent financial troubles in the future. So one of the things that WalletHub pointed out with Provo is their economic momentum, with a median household income growing at nearly 8.4% and really, really low unemployment at 2.8%.
Yeah, and infrastructure, it does very well. It's the 4th lowest violent crime rate in the country, 7th lowest property crime rate. High school graduation is very, very high, 91%. Business growth, of course, is great. Provo is really doing very well and growing quickly. That's good and bad if you're city management.
That's right. We're joined by Provo Mayor Michelle Kaufusi. Welcome, Mayor. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Holly and Greg. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what's your reaction to this WalletHub ranking?
Well, besides the goosebumps, I'm jumping up and down in my kitchen this morning when I got told that we had won this, just overwhelmed with just humility and just literally love for all my employees and all the residents and everyone that has contributed to this accolade.
So if Provo is the best run city in America, that would make you the best mayor in America. So tell us what's going on down there. Why Provo is doing so well right now. And go ahead and pat yourself on the back.
Well, yeah, that is so not me, by the way. And I often say there's not really anything special about me other than I was born and raised here and I have such a deep love. And I'm not afraid of hard work. So that's me in a nutshell. So I do love my job. But it's really just a testament to our incredible city team and the residents who make Provo such a special place.
So I have a question for you, Mayor. I live in Utah County, although not in Provo, but there is a ton of growth that's happening in Utah County. In fact, I think it's the fastest growing county in the nation. But what is Provo doing to manage both infrastructure needs, housing needs, so that you can maintain this great ranking?
Well, I'm a big believer on focusing on our fundamentals, right? So I've always believed in getting the basics right first. So the quality schools, the safe neighborhoods, the well-maintained roads, and then responsible budgeting. And when you take care of those core services efficiently, residents notice, businesses thrive, and then our community excels. And when I focus on those things, that's what makes it so that we keep having the success, even with the growth coming. We're ahead of it. We're managing it. I always say it's coming with or without us. So let's be prepared. Let's get ahead of it, and let's welcome it.
One of the things we're looking at, Mayor, is that the city is experiencing business growth of over 5%. And I'm just wondering how and what you do and what your administration does to attract businesses into Provo and to keep businesses there once they're established.
Well, that really is one of my priorities, is getting businesses and business growth in our city, because it really matters to the citizens. That's the tax dollars we need in our city. Our 5.2% annual business growth isn't an accident. I never see it as an accident. I always shout from the rafters, Provo City is open for business. And it's also the result of just creating an environment full of energy. And there's a real feeling right now of excitement in this community where people want to live, they want to work and invest, and just the quality of life is so fantastic here. We always brag about how, in 10 minutes you can be up on a trail, in 10 minutes down on a lake, 15 minutes out skiing at Sundance. We really are in this perfect little spot in the state of Utah that really, really feeds into that quality of life. And it makes it so that when I give my sales pitch, businesses really, really like that.
I have a question that will, I hope, give you the opportunity to pat yourself on the back, maybe. What is one of the things that you're proudest of right now that maybe over the last year has taken place in Provo?
Well, that's a great question, because I always kind of go big or go home on ideas. There's actually a couple that come to mind. Our new airport is something we're also proud of. That was an idea that was on a 30-year plan, and I said, why don't we try at least now? Well, now we have this amazing airport out of Provo that is already building out the expansion, which I kind of did that one on a gamble, hoping that it would be successful. And the other one that we are cutting the ribbon on, or should I say the toilet paper, is our brand new water reclamation system. On June 21st, I deemed myself the sewer mayor at my first inaugural speech, because our infrastructure, which is the ugly, expensive stuff in the ground, had a massive issue and it needed to be addressed. And we have worked tirelessly and so excited for our Flush Fest on June 21st to cut our toilet paper for our brand new water reclamation center.
That's a party.
Mayor, you talked about Yes, absolutely. Quality of life you mentioned down there. I'm looking at the survey and it talks about quality of city services. What is it that you're proud of there, or what is the city doing that would rank them so high in that particular category?
Well, I think that when we say city services, my mind just floods with every one of my directors and what they're over, meaning all the way from our roads to our library to our rec center to our garbage pickup. This group of workers in the Provo organization are really hard workers, and they do it with a smile. And the citizens feel it. They pick up on it. I really push that out, that we are here to make their lives better and easier and lift people regardless of what your job is. I want you to engage with the community. And so when I think of the city services, I just think, we are constantly looking for ways to be better and do better. A perfect example of that is what they talk about with our safety, our police and public safety folks, that we are proud to boast that we're the 4th lowest violent crime rate in the nation and the 7th lowest property crime rate. That is all the credit goes to the folks that are over that, the public safety.
Mayor, we want to help you celebrate.
Have you seen those billboards that have a giant turtle on them that say win a new air conditioner? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you're probably wondering, what's that all about? Well, the turtle is a character in our new TV commercials that'll be airing this summer. I know it's kind of silly, but we're always trying to figure out how to grab attention and stand out in a crowded market. We thought a big turtle would do the trick. Another thing we're doing is every week this summer, Any Hour is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer. We're calling it the Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how it works. This summer, if you get an estimate to replace your air conditioner or purchase a new air conditioner from Any Hour Services, you'll automatically be entered into our weekly drawing. If your name is drawn, Any Hour will pay for your air conditioner, up to $8,750. We just want to meet more homeowners that are in the market for a new air conditioner and have the chance to earn their business. We're confident that once you have an Any Hour technician in your home, you'll see why we have over 28,000 Google reviews. No purchase is necessary. See official rules at anyhour.com.
When is the optimal time to file for Social Security? That could help you get every penny that is rightfully yours. Get the answer in a free report, your guide to filing for Social Security in 2025 and beyond. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, who's helped tens of thousands of families get the most out of their benefits. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. Timing, taxes, spousal benefits. This free report details the most critical things you must consider that could help you get the most income from your Social Security benefits today. Get this free report right now by calling 801-251-1046. That number again, 801-251-1046.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
You've built the dream, the home, the lifestyle, the legacy. Now it's time your windows and doors reflect that same $1 million standard. Whether you're designing a stunning custom home or upgrading the one you've loved for years, Peach Doors and Windows is here to bring that vision to life with precision, style, and craftsmanship.
The Peach specialty? High-end custom windows and doors that don't just fit your space, they elevate it. From sleek, modern lines to timeless, elegant finishes, they offer the kinds of craftsmanship that truly complements a $1 million space. And with Peach, the process is easy. No pressure, no gimmicks, just knowledgeable experts helping you find solutions to turn your someday project into right now.
Visit their spacious showroom, get inspired, and create something beautiful together. Peach Doors and Windows for the $1 million home you live in and the $1 million feeling you deserve. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 today.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff, many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain, and after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic. Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We're continuing to follow the war between Israel and Iran. This one, Holly, continues to just get bigger and bigger, both sides not seemingly giving down or going down at all. It started with Israel bombing Iranian nuclear capabilities, and
right.
It seemed to be fairly focused on that, and not that was going to end everything. In fact, it did just the opposite. But it seems like Israel was like, okay, you've got enough nuclear capabilities. We're going to put a stop to this now. They bombed their nuclear, their testing facility, their research facility, and killed some of their bigger
nuclear scientists
right,
yep.
Involved in that. Of course, it only escalated. Iran came back, started lofting drones into Israel, and those were largely stopped. It's going back and forth and back and forth. Trump's come back from the G7 summit in Canada overnight and talked about this, and he's been talking about whether or not there's going to be a ceasefire. Here's what he said.
Trump on social media with an urgent message last night to the 9 million people in Iran's capital, posting, "Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran." French President Emmanuel Macron claiming Trump's early departure from G7 may be a diplomatic move, claiming Trump made an offer for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Trump overnight denying that, saying he returned to Washington for something much bigger than that.
So that's one of the things I think if you're watching from Tehran, you've got to be really concerned when the President of the United States says, everybody evacuate. That city has 10 million people. It in fact, is about the size of Israel for total population. And earlier, Israel said people in the heart of the city, 330,000, should evacuate. One of the things to remember, though, in the Middle East is there's not the same kind of infrastructure as there is here. So there's not like reliable roads out of the city where 10 million people could evacuate.
Yeah, so you have to wonder what's the message there. He says on Tuesday, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. I mean, that seems like, if you recall, a week or two before the Israeli attack, he had all the Americans get out
started to pull American
Tehran,
personnel.
which should have been some sign that, hey, something's about to happen here. Of course, some of us thought maybe it was the Iranians that they were worried about, not the Israelis, bombing them. But now he's saying everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran, as though he's seeing something much bigger coming down.
Yeah, and we know that there have been conversations, at least at some level, between Israel and President Trump about taking out Iran's Ayatollah. So maybe there's something around that. We don't know, right, because we're not in the inner circle. But there is an interesting article in the Deseret News today, and political reporter Brigham Tonko actually talked to former Ambassador Robert O'Brien. He was President Trump's national security advisor from 2019 to 2021. And he says he thinks that Israel's attack on Iran will do more than just delay the nuclear program or destroy the nuclear program. He thinks that if it continues even more than a couple of weeks, the whole regime will just collapse.
Yeah, and you have to wonder what that means for Iran. The regime collapses. The country certainly doesn't, but did they get a new regime? Do they get some other group of people in there that are going to...
It's just like we saw in Syria, but we've had Jay Evenson on talking to us about regime change in Bangladesh, right?
Yes.
And yes, there's a power vacuum when one falls, but a lot of times there's this freedom movement as well. So I don't know who's next in line to claim power if the Ayatollah goes down in Iran, but I thought it was really interesting that was part of the conversation. Is Robert O'Brien says he thinks the whole regime will just collapse.
And there's always talk with respect to this particular conflict, Holly, as to U.S.'s involvement in this. After the initial Israeli attack, some U.S. authorities were saying, hey, we had nothing to do with that. Of course, Iranian officials are saying there's no way Israel did this in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
They had to have not only the knowledge of the United States, but the blessing of the United States before we do this. Trump has sort of played it close to the vest, as you might expect, saying, well, we knew about it, but it wasn't our deal, and we're just going to let these two guys fight it out.
Right. I mean, also we've said he did not give permission for Israel to take out the Ayatollah. But O'Brien actually told the Deseret News that the U.S. and Israel always coordinate on major activities. So O'Brien is saying he's pretty certain that they did.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if you could read between the lines, Holly, what it is about the regime that can't withstand this. Is it just that they're getting pummeled there, and maybe the citizens are like, hey, we need to go a different direction?
Yeah, so I'll just go back to O'Brien because he was the policy advisor, right? But he said a couple of things. He thinks the talents in Israel, right? So we know that they have large military capabilities. The finances in the Gulf and Iran and the Middle East could all just play a part in kind of squashing this authoritarian regime that's really trying to get a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, and we're also seeing that Trump has made the statement today that the Iranian supreme leader, the Ayatollah, is safe, quote, for now, as though there's
sounds like a
there's
threat,
some
right?
ominous warning there that things are going to get worse. And, of course, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Makes you wonder if that city's about to have some real problems. Like you said, it's a city of 10 million people. There are about 330,000 in the downtown area where they're really hoping and asking people to evacuate.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important to remember is that we were on the verge of nuclear talks again with the U.S. and
That's
Iran.
right, yeah.
And now, of course, Iran is saying absolutely off the table. We will not be having any kind of deproliferation talks while we're being attacked. And Israel said, Netanyahu said, we're not interested in negotiating any nuclear agreement with Iran. We want their capabilities wiped out.
I thought the timing of the Israeli attack was really strange in that respect, because we were expected to have nuclear negotiations just days later. We had a contingent that was ready to fly out there and start negotiating with Tehran. And Trump is saying, hey, you should have cut a deal, but in some respect, they didn't have a chance. And he's also saying now to the Iranian leaders, my patience with you is wearing thin, and I know where you are. I know where your leaders are hiding. Like,
right? So, yeah, I think one of the things Israel has also said is they've claimed the airspace over Tehran so that they now control that. That's important, right? Because that means that they also have the ability to prevent attacks on Israel, but can also attack Tehran if they need to. And I think one of the things we see internationally, right, is people trying to say they were. In fact, I've seen two different news sources today saying they were very close to having a nuclear weapon, and some saying they were still years away from having a nuclear weapon. So there's some disagreement on how close they were, but we know that they were continuing their project to enrich uranium.
What was it about the nuclear agreement that we had with Iran previously? And I think it was from the Obama administration. I may be wrong.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
That Trump didn't like, because it seemed that did keep a lid on things for some period of time.
So,
maybe there was a trust issue.
So I think there's multiple things. I think one of the things that the Trump administration said when they withdrew from that agreement the first go around was that they didn't feel like it went far enough, that they had constraints. They agreed to let inspectors come in and look at these uranium enrichment plants. But I think one of the arguments was, well, things are still going on outside of the quote-unquote official places where this enrichment is going on, and that perhaps that was trust, to your point,
right,
a trust issue, but also that it just didn't go far enough to prevent them. And Iran is basically saying, we're going to do it whether you let us or not.
Yeah, so maybe it was one of those things where we really didn't have much choice. Trump was also asked why he was asking people to evacuate Tehran. Of course, the answer may be obvious, but his quote is, "I just want people to be safe." So he knows something's coming. You almost wonder why he would signal that, that would be part of his conversation, but maybe it's obvious anyway.
Some news stories this morning also said that Israel was able to hit an underground uranium enrichment site, which is that takes a significant amount of precision and certain types of weapons that can get underground.
So, and I know we've only got a few seconds left here, but you would almost think that Israel has done what it needed to do. If their biggest concern is nuclear capabilities from Iran, they've done just about everything they can to make sure that there's not going to be a bomb coming out of there anytime soon. Although, who knows what,
They said they want it completely eliminated, not just damaged.
Yeah, crazy. The Trump administration is also considering adding some countries to their travel ban list, including major partners such as Egypt and several Pacific Islander nations. Stay with us.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: the organizers of the No Kings rally in Salt Lake City are speaking out for the first time since the protest on Saturday, where an innocent bystander was fatally shot. The group 5051 says their security volunteers were responding to a man who witnesses say had a rifle. The volunteers shot the alleged rifleman as well as Afa Alu, who was participating in the rally. In a statement to KSL, the group says the volunteer in question is a military veteran and acted with the belief that there was imminent danger to the other protesters. Our top national story from ABC News this hour: new retail sales numbers were released this morning.
After beating analysts' expectations in April with a slight increase, retail and food services sales for May came in down 0.9% from the previous month, but 3.3% above the figure from May of last year. The month-to-month decline was partly driven by lower levels of car purchases.
ABC's Jim Ryan reporting. Your money at this moment: the Dow's down 47 points right now, 0.1% to 42,466. Coming up, a quick cool down before record-setting heat potentially. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:32. The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Looking for reliable home services you can actually count on? I've got just the team for you. Mountain Home Services. They've been serving Utah since 1954 with honest, upfront pricing and zero hidden fees. Plus, they back every job with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. With summer heating up, now's the time to get your AC in shape. Mountain Home Services delivers fast, expert air conditioning service to keep your home cool and comfortable. And don't forget, they also handle electrical and plumbing work with the same trusted care. And here's the best part. KSL listeners get exclusive limited-time specials, but you have to call and ask. These deals won't last, so don't miss your chance to save. Call 801-543-2222 today and tell them KSL sent you. That's 801-543-2222 or visit mountainhomeservices.com. Get the service you need and the deal you deserve.
When you're hiring,
Have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The wait is almost over. After 2 years of renovation, the perfect downtown lunch spot is now almost open. The Garden Restaurant opens on June 30th. The Garden Restaurant offers a beautifully designed space and deliciously fresh menu. It's close to everything downtown, next to the Temple Square block. If you need something quick and on the go, or to meet a client, friend, or place to relax, the Garden Restaurant offers healthy options like handcrafted sandwiches, soups, unique salads, plus traditional favorites like homemade pot pies and the famous Lion House rolls. The Garden's new look and tasty menu offers something for everyone, featuring dine-in, patio seating, lobby seating, and grab-and-go or quick online ordering. Visit the Garden today. Reimagine space with remarkable taste. Easy street access on the ground floor of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Open weekdays 11 to 3. Check out the menu at thegardenslc.com. Fresh flavors, iconic location. The Garden Restaurant, opening next week, June 30th. See you there.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
They're still working on this crash northbound on the I-215 westbound, right about 4700 south off to the right. Not really causing any delays, but just use some caution coming around that bend. For drivers northbound I-15, looking at a KSL travel time of about 16 minutes from Draper to downtown. Construction still slowing you down in a couple of spots. Southbound I-15 right about Shepherd Lane, and again eastbound on I-84 going between South Weber and Morgan. Garden City, Utah in beautiful Bear Lake presents Little Texas on July 5th at Garden City Heritage Park. Games, live music, and fireworks show, all free. Visit bearlake.org for details. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today. We stay in the upper 80s today in northern Utah, but the small cool down doesn't last long. We're back into the 90s on Wednesday, and then we should hit our first 100-degree day on Thursday. Right now it's sunny and 74 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We don't often think or talk about travel bans as something the administration gets involved in as we deal with our relationships with other countries, but the Trump administration is considering adding more countries to their travel ban list, including partners such as Egypt, countries in the Caribbean, Central Asia, several Pacific Island nations. In fact, the administration is considering adding 36 countries to the travel ban, according to a memo that was recently released. Among the countries I mentioned, some 25 African nations, including Egypt and Djibouti, as I indicated, Egypt, countries in the Caribbean, Central Asia, Pacific Island nations. I mean, what's going on?
It even includes Tonga, right? So, I mean, that's one where I think, don't have any kind of bad relationship with Tonga, as far as I am aware. But one of the things that people ask is, well, why? Why is the administration putting this ban on? And the original ban earlier this administrative session, right? This presidency, he actually banned people coming from countries that he felt like were a danger to the United States. But the memo actually says these countries were failing to meet some benchmarks that they felt were important and included no competent or cooperative central government authority to produce reliable identity documents or other civil documents, or they suffered from widespread government fraud, or they had large numbers of citizens who overstayed their visas in the United States. And other reasons included some claims of monetary investment without a requirement of residency, claims of anti-Semitic and anti-American activity. But they noted, the memo said, if the country was willing to accept third country nationals, meaning people that the U.S. wants to deport but don't come from that country, then they might mitigate some of these other requirements.
So what you're talking about when I'm listening to that list of criteria is a little bit, as we've talked a lot about immigration.
That's right.
And the fact that some countries aren't as tight, their regulations aren't as tight, and that some people that may be coming in from some of these countries that have loose immigration rules and even identification rules, you might have a person come here and get lost and never go back.
Right. So you would have a visa ban or restrictions, but one of the things that looks like with unreliable documentation. So, for example, Ethiopia is on this list. I happen to be traveling to Ethiopia. I hope in October. My son is getting married there, so that's really a destination wedding. And my children were asking, my adult children who are planning on going, who are U.S. citizens, were asking, will this impact me going there? The answer right now is no, it will not, unless Ethiopia says we're going to ban U.S. citizens from coming into our country. It's talking about people from there coming here. But as we adopted children from Ethiopia, one of the things that we found is there were not accurate birth records. So our children have birthdays that we picked. Like, we just made them up. I took them to doctors and dentists to get as close to the age as we could, looking at bone size and bone density in their teeth and, whether they had 12-year molars or whatever. But we don't know their actual birth dates because they didn't keep that kind of documentation.
So would this have applied to those adoptions? Let's say there's a travel ban.
No.
They're not really traveling, but they're traveling. They're coming here. But would it have applied, do you think?
I don't think so. And again, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons you can look at this. Like, why would the U.S. impose a ban on Egypt? Egypt is one of our key trading partners. They're considered an ally. Like, there's some things where I look at this and say, this just doesn't make sense. If I look at Syria, for example, Syria is really unstable politically, right? We just talked about a regime change there. So maybe I can understand that. But again, some of these places like Zambia is very peaceful. I've been there multiple times. And it just, on some level, it doesn't make sense that we're saying, okay, we're going to protect the United States by not allowing people from this country to immigrate. So international adoption is a really complicated issue, and it's changed a lot since we did our adoptions. But as a U.S. citizen adopting internationally, as my children were adopted and came to the United States, they became U.S. citizens. And so it's a different type of visa that they'd be applying for.
So what we're talking about is a presidential proclamation issued June 4th when the United States fully restricted entry of individuals from a number of nations, some of which might surprise you, like you say, Egypt, Tonga. I mean, we certainly don't have any bad relations with some of these countries, but they're not meeting some requirements that the U.S. must have put on them. I'm assuming there was some notice or something like that.
So the June 4th proclamation actually is restricted to about a dozen countries, but additional
this is an expansion of that.
This would be an expansion. So they did give them 60 days to meet the new benchmarks and requirements, but they had an 8 a.m. deadline. They have an 8 a.m. deadline tomorrow to issue their first response, right, to that. So 60 days from now, the middle of August, in theory, we could start seeing, okay, there are additional travel restrictions placed on these countries because they didn't respond to us, they didn't meet the benchmarks, they didn't give us a plan, those types of things. It's not immediate yet.
That seems to be a method that the Trump administration used in tariffs as well, saying,
right.
Hey, we're going to impose this tariff in 60 days or in 90 days. Unless
so come
you do
talk to
A,
us.
B, C, and D.
Whatever it is.
So you would expect that these countries would come to the table. I mean, it's in everybody's best interest to have people come in, and these are just travel restrictions. It's not necessarily immigration restriction. It's travel bans.
Right, and it can look a lot of different ways, right? So it can look like they're restricting students, and that's been part of our conversation. It's restricting students from coming here. It can look like there's an absolute ban. Nobody from this country is coming in. It can look like there's a partial restriction, so there have to be some additional hoops that you jump through. For example, right now we have partial restrictions on the country of Burundi, but also on Cuba and Venezuela, right? So people can come here, but the bar is now higher and there's more hoops they have to jump through.
So what was the country you said you're going to? Ethiopia?
Ethiopia.
So if we place a travel ban on Ethiopia, is there a good chance that they would do the same to us and you wouldn't be able to travel for what you're doing?
I don't know. And one of the things that happened when I traveled before is there was a little bit of a back and forth between the country of Turkey and the U.S., and I needed to get a visa for Turkey, but I did not do it as soon as I knew I was traveling, and they did this back and forth, and so the U.S. said, okay, nobody from Turkey's coming in, and Turkey said, okay, nobody from the U.S. is coming in, and so I couldn't go.
Oh, because you had to travel through Turkey.
Yeah, I was going to Turkey to do humanitarian work, and I couldn't get a visa because they were in the middle of that fight.
Well, let's hope you go, and let's hope that everything works out and that we can work things out with these countries, because it seems like the administration loves to do this, keep people on their toes, get people in line, and largely countries do that. I mean, largely it seems like people are coming to the fore, coming to the United States and saying, hey, what can we do to make this work out? Well, travel bans, we don't think about that very often, but here we go. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about a new phone plan called Trump Mobile, with a new Gold Trump branded smartphone. We'll be right back.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
This week's movie show brought to you by Sound Sleep Medical. Get a free sleep screening and a free sleep consultation by tuning in on Friday morning. Sound Sleep Medical with 7 locations in Utah.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings, or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
The new Inside Sources.
At an event in New York City Monday, the Trump Organization announced it's getting into the telecom market with the Trump Mobile, a phone plan that promises the same coverage as the other three network service carriers. It's far from the only mobile network with a major name attached to it, but it is raising a number of regulatory concerns. Oh, and there is also a Trump-branded smartphone as well. Of course, it's gold. What do you think, Holly?
So one of the things that they're promoting is that this will be built in America, and already that claim is raising eyebrows. Look, we've had already discussions about critical minerals and how reliant we are on China for those types of things. I am doubtful that you can actually build a phone completely in America.
Or much else. We're lucky to be joined this morning by Mike Dubusky, ABC News technology reporter. Mike, thank you for joining us. And what can you tell us about Trump Mobile?
Yeah, so as you guys mentioned, here in New York City yesterday, the Trump Organization, which is run by the president's sons, Eric and Don Jr., announced that they're making this move into the telecom space. They're announcing Trump Mobile, which is what's known in the industry as an MVNO, or a mobile virtual network operator. Essentially, these are sort of niche services that piggyback off of the networks of the more established players, right? T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T are sort of the big players in the U.S. market. So this service should offer similar coverage to those plans, but it doesn't have any infrastructure of its own. They're not flying satellites or setting up cell phone towers or anything like that. They're piggybacking off of existing networks. So it should have pretty broad coverage in the U.S. in short. It is $47.45 a month, which is significant numbers for the Trump family. And they promise unlimited talk, text, and data, free calls to 200 countries around the world. And given that this is an MVNO, it is a little bit more expensive than some of the other companies that play in this space. Think like Mint Mobile. You might be familiar with the Ryan Reynolds commercials. That is an MVNO. Also, Cricket Wireless is also in this space. You can generally get a plan like this for a little cheaper from those companies, but what the Trump Organization is saying justifies this additional cost is some bonuses. Things like 24/7 telehealth is what they are offering. And roadside assistance, in case your car breaks down, is included in this plan. A lot of questions about exactly how that's going to work in the real world, but that is what they are saying justifies that $47.45 a month. And in addition to that, guys, you mentioned that there is a phone that comes along with this. This is something that Trump Mobile, I should say, is something that they say will work with pretty much any mainstream smartphone. But if you want to buy a Trump-branded phone, they will sell that to you. It is called the T1. In fact, its full name is the T1 Phone 8002 Gold version. And that name is not a misdirect. It is gold, although I don't know if it's real gold or not. It is trimmed in a gold sort of look. It has a big T on the back of it and an American flag. The only photo we have of this thing is on the website, and it appears to be a computer rendering. It looks sort of like an iPhone, although they say it runs Android 15, so this is a pretty standard Android device from what we understand. About $500 is what they're asking for it. But as you guys also mentioned, they say that they plan to build this in the United States, which there is no infrastructure for that right now. No smartphones are built in the United States. We don't have factories or suppliers really for that here in the U.S., to say nothing of the knowledge base, right? The people who would be charged with building that factory or engineering this phone, they just we don't have a ton of those people here in the U.S. So that is, another challenge that the Trump Organization will need to overcome if they actually plan to put this thing on sale, which they say they plan to do relatively soon. It says coming soon on the website. So that is what they are saying. If none of that is enough to dissuade you, you can put down a down payment for this phone, which is $100.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What other concerns are being raised? And I actually have a question coming soon. Does anybody have an idea what that means, or might that be after Trump is out of office?
Not really. The coming soon is as close as we're going to get, unfortunately. But I mean, you have to think, and this is something that has been knocked around the smartphone industry a lot recently, given the tariffs that the Trump administration is proposing on countries where some of our most popular smartphones are built, namely China, is where they build many iPhones, they build many Google Pixel devices and Samsung devices as well in countries that could be hit with some pretty severe tariffs, thus driving up the cost of those phones. The intention of the Trump administration, so they say, is to return American manufacturing to America, right? To build things here again and put Americans back to work. Well, that costs money and that takes time, right? Some estimates say that if Apple were to transfer the entire corpus of iPhone production to the U.S., then the cost of the iPhone could skyrocket to $3,000 to $5,000 a phone. And that's just not what we're used to paying, right? iPhones are themselves already a luxury good. Now we are talking about a 3 to 5-fold increase on that already existing phone, right? Apple has, economies of scale and supply chains that they've figured out. Now you couple that with the fact that the Trump Organization, I should say, plans to not just have all of those economies of scale and develop these technologies, but also to do it here in the United States. I think there's some skepticism that should be, treated with this whole story, because that's a really steep hill to climb. They say they're going to do it, but again, it is something that I think should raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, and I guess another eyebrow raiser, Mike, is does the Trump Organization have enough distance from the Trump administration such that regulators are saying, well, if you guys want to do this, you can? It just, to me, it seems like it's a little close to the edge.
Yeah,
right.
Well, the FCC commissioner is a man named Brendan Carr, and he has largely been an advocate for Donald Trump, right? They've worked closely together, and he sort of, forwards Trump's thoughts on the Federal Communications Commission. He would be tasked with regulating this network, this MVNO that the Trump family is now spinning up. Now, you hear the Trump family talk about this. There's a separation between what the president does and what the Trump Organization does. But even still, this man, Brendan Carr, will be tasked with regulating an organization that bears the name of his boss, essentially. And yeah, that raises some ethical concerns right off the bat. I think we should maybe temper that with just saying that MVNOs are not very popular in the U.S. Mint Mobile, Cricket Wireless, some of these other companies that we've talked about really only account for a very small percentage of the market share. It is dominated in the U.S. by 3 companies, by T-Mobile, by Verizon, and by AT&T. So these are going to be pretty niche services to begin with. So there's questions as to, how big a deal this will be for Brendan Carr in the first place. But yes, I mean, on its face, this does create some pretty ethical, perilous quandaries in the smartphone space, or at least the cell phone provider space.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mike. That is just really interesting information.
That's fascinating. We have Trump watches, sneakers, Bibles. I think there's a Trump coin, Bitcoin.
I'm just looking. They've got Trump 2028 apparel for sale from the Trump organization, and of course that's an issue, right? Because he's not eligible to run for a third term.
Part of the Constitution. I mean, that may not stop him. Interesting. I mean, the Trump family, the Trump organization is entitled to go out and market and use the name, and certainly it's a big name nationally and locally, and a lot of people will buy it because of that name and for no other reason. It didn't seem like it was necessarily competitive price-wise, but I don't know that a lot of people care about that.
I mean, you can get gold sneakers, and you can get a Trump watch, and now you can have a gold phone, and you can get a Trump 2028 hat and rewrite the rules as a shirt being sold at the Trump organization website.
Why not? Why not? We've been talking over the last week and a half since we started our show about the big, beautiful bill, and we haven't necessarily lost track of it because we've broken it down, Holly, it seems like, into about a dozen different sub-bills.
Yeah.
But we want to talk about that and sort of get an update on where that is right now, especially because it's in the hands of the Senate. They've got to make some decisions fairly quickly. They're at a razor-thin, the Republicans, I should say, razor-thin majority. But let's break that down and talk about it after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. Utah Senator Mike Lee is getting some heat today following posts about the suspect accused of attacking two Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
Senator Lee posted a surveillance photo of the alleged Minnesota gunman Vance Bolter on his Based Mike Lee X account with the caption, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." He later shared two photos of Bolter with the caption, "Nightmare on Walt Street," which appears to reference Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Since then, Lee has faced a tidal wave of criticism from national news outlets like the New York Times to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle.
We've reached out to Senator Lee's office for comment, but have not heard back. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Israel claims to have killed a top Iranian general in a strike. The news comes as President Trump warned residents of Tehran to evacuate. The president left the G7 summit in Canada a day early to deal with the conflict between Israel and Iran. Kraft Heinz says they won't use artificial dyes in new products amid concerns they might be harmful.
It will not launch any new products in the U.S. with artificial colors effective immediately, says the Kraft Heinz company. It makes ketchup, cheeses, Jell-O, and Kool-Aid, among other things. The company says it's already removed the dyes from 90% of its products. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. has claimed artificial food dyes are contributing to chronic illness. He's announced a plan to eliminate them on a voluntary basis. Studies have linked some food dyes to behavioral changes in children and cancer in animals.
ABC's Chuck Sievertson reporting. And your money at this moment, Wall Street down today, Dow off 142 points. Coming up a little cooler today, KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Market volatility isn't slowing down. If you're nearing retirement, now is not the time to wait and see. Every day of uncertainty can put your future at risk. It's time to diversify. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I want you to know you can create certainty. locking in guaranteed income for life. This means predictable, stable cash flow, even in turbulent times. You've worked too hard to leave your retirement to chance. Right now, there are options to receive up to 30% upfront or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. That's up to $30,000 upfront or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't wait. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any examples provided are hypothetical. Annuities are issued with prospectus and sales brochures and should be reviewed carefully before funding as features and benefits vary. DBA in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Overall, things are running smoothly on I-15. We do have a crash southbound at Pleasant Grove Boulevard on the off-ramp that is off to the left. Not really seeing any delays from that. Also, we had a crash at 90th South that is also at the off-ramp. I'm not seeing any slowdowns there either. Jordan Valley Water says we're using about 12% more water than last year, even though we don't need to. Let's fix that. Water one day less each week. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures stay in the 80s today. We shoot right back up to the 90s tomorrow. Thursday, we reach triple digits. Right now, it's 75 degrees and fair. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Commons Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com or Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, it's been about 2 weeks since the Senate has had the big, beautiful bill which came from the House, and which, by the way, passed with just a razor-thin majority before it gets back to the House, which it's likely to. The Senate's making its changes, and they're maybe a little more significant than the administration would have wanted. And the administration has given both houses until July 4th to get this thing done, which is now, 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah, and you know, that July 4th deadline is really more of a suggestion, I think. And I think Senator John Curtis has already said, I'm not really sure we're going to hit that, but they're trying. So the Senate Finance Committee just released their tax portion of the reconciliation bill. So it's 549 pages. And if you remember, the One Big Beautiful Bill is over 1,000. So this is about half.
This is half of it, yes.
Yeah, this is about half. So it's talking about these proposed changes and how they will impact tax policy. We also have talked about the parliamentary process, right? So they have a Senate parliamentarian, and you're supposed to keep things pertinent to the bill in the bill. But this parliamentarian actually has to review the proposals to see if they actually meet the definition of these reconciliation rules. So once it passes the Senate, which right now it's just out of committee, but once it passes the Senate and heads to the House, the House then has to decide if they're going to take up these changes, these proposed changes. And there's no guarantee that coming out of the Finance Committee that that's what the Senate is going to end up passing. But what is likely to happen first before the full body of the House meets and debates these changes is that they'll have a compromise, or they call it a conference committee, which basically means you put a few people from each body in a room and let them duke it out, right? So you don't have to have everybody duking it out in public.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of the tax changes, and I know that a lot of Republicans were nervous that the bill at its face had way too much, increased the deficit by far too much.
Right.
It decreased spending, but didn't increase receipt of taxes enough to make up the difference. Do you see what's happening here? Is that something that they're addressing here?
I think they're trying, right? And so there is a really important change to Medicaid, and that is lowering the provider tax from 6% to 3.5%. And a provider tax is actually imposed on providers in the hospital. And so what that's saying is they're not going to get as much reimbursement from Medicaid, which of course will impact Medicaid recipients. Another thing that we're seeing, and this was a big deal for Senator John Curtis, is the green energy tax credits. So what the Senate bill is proposing is to eliminate the quote Green New Deals, the subsidies, but provide a more flexible phase-out timeline for the clean energy credits, extend slightly, it's not that much, expiration dates for the credits before they go away. And then they're trying to soften the impact on businesses and utilities. And we've heard in Utah from a number of energy companies here, including solar companies, that basically say, if you take these away from us, you will destroy our business. We won't even be able to stay in business if you take these away.
So tell us how it works. The House passes the bill in a certain form. It goes to the Senate. They make changes. Then I assume, maybe I'm wrong, that the House needs to approve the changes.
That's right.
I mean, all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
So they basically have to have a unified package that goes to the president's desk
that both
sides support, right? And
okay.
so right now you see we've had one full proposal from the House. This is the tax proposal from the Senate side. We know that there's some big differences in there. So for example, SALT, it's the state and local tax deductions. And we've talked about this before. What that says is if you're in a state that's a high state income tax state, you can remove those or you can deduct those from your taxes that you pay at the end of the year. And so people are saying, well, that benefits blue states, which Democratic controlled states. But there are Republicans from those states who say, absolutely, if you change this, I'm an absolute no on this bill, and this bill will die.
So given that, Holly, we've heard repeatedly that the Democrats don't like this bill at all. They're not going to support it, maybe in any
just
form.
Republicans.
So it's just the Republicans that are doing all these negotiations at this point. Is there a scenario in your mind when Republicans will have to reach across the aisle and say, hey, we don't have the votes. We need some.
Nope.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they may do that, but I think the Democrats have been pretty solid as a body saying we don't, we're not okay with any of these. And so it's really basically you're going to own it. And if you have the House and the Senate and the presidency, you're going to own this and you're going to own the fallout from this, I think is really the idea.
I hate to revisit something, but I do want you to help me with this. What are state and local tax deductions? What do they refer to here? They're saying maintaining the $10,000 household deduction cap, but then what would the deduction be then?
So what they're looking at on the House side was a $40,000 deduction. So yeah, you have to go back a few years, but it used to be that there was a $10,000 deduction, then it went to zero. Now it went back to $10,000, and the House, one of the reasons that it took so long for them to come out with a bill is they were negotiating this part, right? And so you have somebody like Mike Lawler from New York who he's the one who says, if you change this deduction down from $40,000, then I'm not going to vote for this bill. I absolutely will not support this bill. So again, these are people who live typically in blue states. They have a higher state tax rate. And then they're allowing a deduction on the federal taxes, saying, okay, well, you make a certain amount, and it's titrated, it's tiered. So if you make $40,000, you can deduct the whole amount, and then it just goes down. But if you have paid this amount in taxes, you can deduct up to $40,000 off of your federal income tax, right? So in the Senate, they're saying we're going to keep it at $10,000, and the House, at least the people who negotiated this part, are saying if you drop it below $40,000, I'm out.
So speaking of the House, there were certain members of the House that after the bill passed indicated, oops, I didn't read it as closely as I could. There were some things that happened there. Do you think any of those are being addressed? And I only ask that because of this. So if it goes back to the House and these people are true to what they've said, it won't pass the next time, because they said, hey, had I read paragraph 18B, I would have never signed the thing.
On page 780, right? Yeah, I think what we see right now, this is the tax policy part, the reconciliation part that they need to come together on. That portion specifically was the AI portion, which doesn't seem to be related to taxes, right? It's an additional add-on to the one big beautiful bill. So we haven't seen those proposals come out of the Senate yet. We really are just looking at tax policy at this point.
Yeah, interesting. I hate to break away, but it seems like every station that we're looking at is talking about the war between Israel and Iran in such a way that, Trump's about to meet with his national security team. Israel's issuing some threats right now. There are everybody's talking about it, and I know you haven't been watching as closely as I have, but it seems like something's heating up here, and it's heating up in a hurry to the point where the Trump administration is saying, hey, it's time to get something moving here.
Yeah, I can see a CNN headline that says Israel says it will strike very significant targets in Tehran today.
Yeah, it's just it's nuts. Sorry, I had to digress from the bill, but it looks like everything's going very quickly here. They're going to strike. Why would they telegraph that? We're going to strike significant targets in Tehran today. It's got to make the administration, the U.S. administration, think how are we going to resolve this, or how is it going to resolve? And like you said earlier, it may resolve with a regime change in Iran. Wild. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk to Jeff Flake, former U.S. Senator and U.S. Ambassador to Turkey, to talk about his thoughts about a case for soft power and the quiet strength for moral leadership. Stay with us.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Inside Sources.
So there's an article in the Deseret News called The Case for Soft Power. It's written by Jeff Flake. He's a former U.S. Senator and U.S. Ambassador to Turkey. He's also the chair for the World Trade Center Utah. He serves at the Wheatley Institute at BYU as well. And we are really, really lucky to have Ambassador Flake on the line with us to talk about soft power. Welcome, Ambassador.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
We're so happy to have you on. I wonder if you could just start by defining for us a little bit about what you mean by soft power.
Power is anything but military power. The U.S. has kind of been defined over the decades, over the centuries. It's our assistance in World War II and whatnot by our military might, and that's important, and it remains important. But also, soft power is what our diplomats do and what our humanitarian programs do. One great example is after World War II, the Marshall Plan, where we went and rebuilt those countries that had been decimated by war. And that was hugely advantageous to them and to us because, we've had ever since no world wars. And we've traded with these countries. We've become more prosperous. They have as well. And so soft power means a lot, and it's good for our own national security.
So you share in your article an example about PEPFAR, and I'm wondering if you could share that briefly with our listeners as well, how you see that in the soft power space.
Sure. I mentioned that I wrote my master's thesis in the 1980s at BYU on Robert Mugabe, the leader of Zimbabwe, the dictator in Zimbabwe for 37 years. I was trying to explain his hold on to power after just 2 election cycles in the 1980s. I mentioned that little did I know that, some 30 years later, I would sit across the table from him in Harare, Zimbabwe, while he railed against the United States and railed against Britain and other allied powers. And then I reminded him, I said, in Africa, there was a huge problem with AIDS and in the 90s and in the 2000s. And George W. Bush okayed and really was the architect of a program called PEPFAR, where it delivered low-cost AIDS drugs to African countries. Zimbabwe at that time, 25% of its population was infected. If you can imagine the human suffering that went along with that, what that did to their economy, you name it. I reminded President Mugabe of that, and after he'd been railing on every U.S. president and started railing against George W. Bush, he said, well, okay, I'll give you that. That was a good program. And I said, I've been reminded ever since that, what soft power can do. Not only did it alleviate tons of human suffering, save millions of lives across the African continent, but it has allowed us ever since to have intelligence sharing agreements with governments in Africa that we wouldn't have had. It's allowed us to place military bases where we need them. To work with them on health issues, Ebola, and other things. So it not only helps those countries, but it helps our own national security, and that's all soft power.
Jeff, I'm wondering, this might sound like a completely naive question, but is there a case to be made for soft power as it relates to what we've been talking about all day, which is the conflict between Israel and Iran? I mean, is there a place for the U.S. to do something like this and make a case for this?
Perhaps in the aftermath. Certainly, the situation in Gaza, the U.S. will likely be there to help not only with humanitarian needs in the immediate aftermath, but to help rebuild. And the same could be true depending on what happens in Iran. And if this does lead to regime change, perhaps there will be some kind of soft power that works there. It's tough to imagine with the current government in Iran that they would be open to programs, joint programs with the U.S. or humanitarian assistance. But it can, depending on what happens.
So with your experience as both an ambassador and a senator, a U.S. senator, what do you see the impacts right now of what I see as maybe a decrease in soft power because the United States right now is cutting so many programs, including PEPFAR? How is that going to impact our ability to exercise soft power around the world?
Oh, great question. I'm the first to say there's a lot of waste at USAID. That's our main, institution that is now part of the State Department that kind of delivers humanitarian aid. We can do a lot of things better there, but we just can't throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of programs like PEPFAR. Now, the State Department has said we're going to keep PEPFAR, but it's been very difficult to keep it going because a lot of our assistance to nonprofit organizations that helped implement it are in trouble. So it does concern me greatly. And it's not just delivering humanitarian assistance, but it's this kind of trend now to discount the value of international organizations and institutions. I was in Geneva, Switzerland, just a couple of weeks ago, and talking to an ambassador from an allied country. He mentioned that there in Geneva, which is kind of the European home of a lot of UN organizations, he said that they used to check to see where the U.S. was on a given issue, our allies, that is. And now they no longer do because the U.S. just isn't there. We haven't even appointed an ambassador to the permanent mission in Geneva yet. And we're discounting these organizations, discounting diplomacy, at a time when we need it more than ever. And so I think it's not just soft power relating to humanitarian assistance, but it's our diplomacy and the lack thereof that concerns me.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me as well, Jeff. As I listen to you and I listen to you describe soft power, I think of USAID and what we're doing. Is there a do you have anybody that you're working with soft power that has their foot in the door with the administration that can maybe take a second look at some of these things that we've been cutting back on? I mean, is there hope?
I served, yeah, there is. And I served with Marco Rubio in the Senate for years, and we worked on a lot of issues together. I know that he has strong views about, certain issues on Iran and whatnot, and on Ukraine that I hope will be helpful. And I hope that I'm sure that he is, sometimes a contrary voice to what's going on. So I do have hope that he understands, and others, the value of diplomacy. Let me just give one example. When I was ambassador to Turkey, and I mentioned it in this Deseret News piece, Sweden finally, after 70 years of neutrality, decided that they wanted to become a member of NATO, along with Finland. That was hugely important to NATO as a body, and important to Sweden and Finland's defense. But every country, every allied country in NATO had to approve their entry. And Turkey, the country where I was as a U.S. ambassador, had a big problem with Sweden because of their tolerance of a terrorist organization that was operating in and outside of Turkey. And so that one, the instinct is to just, put pressure on Turkey and call them out. But I can tell you that wouldn't have worked. Domestically, that was very unpopular to allow Sweden into NATO. And so we had to exercise diplomacy over 18 months. That the U.S. Congress was involved ultimately in the sale of F-16 fighter jets. Turkey had to do some things. Sweden had to make some constitutional changes. And it was a very highly choreographed and difficult negotiation that wouldn't have happened had we just said, all right, we're the alpha male here. We're the superpower. You're going to do what we say. And so there is value in diplomacy.
I really appreciate you joining us, Ambassador Flake, and helping us learn more about soft power. In some ways, it kind of sounds like parenting, right?
It does. The article's called The Case for Soft Power, and he just made a very compelling case for soft power. That was beautiful. We probably need that more than ever in our world right now. When we come back after the break, we're going to revisit a segment we talked about earlier involving a Utah Senator, Mike Lee, and the backlash he's facing over some posts that he made on social media. We'll be right back.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Utah Department of Transportation is asking drivers to prepare for delays as they start summer construction projects. KSL News Radio's Brianna Wilson reports.
UDOT says they'll be repaving I-80 in Summit County from Kimball Junction to US 40. There will be lane and ramp closures causing some delays, but construction will mainly happen at night. This project will wrap up this fall. In Tooele County, crews are working to widen SR 36 from Stansbury Park and add a merging lane onto eastbound I-80. This project will take more time to complete, with construction planned to last through the next year.
Officials say they do most of their work during the summer and ask for drivers to be patient as they travel. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump posted about Iran's supreme leader on social media as strikes between Israel and Iran continue.
President Trump writes in a new social media post Tuesday afternoon that the U.S. knows where Iran's supreme leader is hiding and adds, quote, "He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now." The message coming after two U.S. officials told ABC News Sunday that the president rejected an Israeli plan in recent days to kill Ayatollah Khamenei. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ABC Monday that Israel won't rule out an attempt to assassinate him. President Trump in his post Tuesday says the U.S. does not want to see missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers, adding, quote, "Our patience is wearing thin." Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 210 points, the S&P is down 35. And coming up, a little bit of breeze today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
An Australian hiker travels to the American West to walk a wilderness trail.
Wasn't afraid to be out on his own.
But Eric Robinson vanished in the high Uinta Mountains.
I remember thinking, Eric, what were you thinking, mate?
I'm Dave Cawley. Join me on my podcast, Uinta Triangle, where I travel the world to answer the question, what happened to Eric Robinson? Follow Uinta Triangle. That's UINTA Triangle on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
Looking for reliable home services you can actually count on? I've got just the team for you. Mountain Home Services. They've been serving Utah since 1954 with honest, upfront pricing and zero hidden fees. Plus, they back every job with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. With summer heating up, now's the time to get your AC in shape. Mountain Home Services delivers fast, expert air conditioning service to keep your home cool and comfortable. And don't forget, they also handle electrical and plumbing work with the same trusted care. And here's the best part. KSL listeners get exclusive limited-time specials, but you have to call and ask. These deals won't last, so don't miss your chance to save. Call 801-543-2222 today and tell them KSL sent you. That's 801-543-2222 or visit mountainhomeservices.com. Get the service you need and the deal you deserve.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
Right now I'm trying to find what is causing slowdowns in Utah County, southbound I-15. It's in the Linden area, well past Pleasant Grove Boulevard. Traffic has just really become bunched up and slow with the backups into Pleasant Grove. We'll keep you posted when we have more information. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. AdvancedWindows.com. Affordable windows guaranteed. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
87 and sunny skies with a little bit of breeze today. The wind comes back with a high of 102 on Thursday and continues into the weekend. Right now it is 77 and sunny. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So we actually have some developing news we are happy to share with you. In fact, I don't see any other source sharing it, so we'll be the first to bring it to you. Mike Lee has been under fire for a couple of social media posts he made over the weekend, specifically related to the Minnesota shootings. And those posts were there this morning with tens of thousands of comments, and they are gone. They've been deleted.
Yeah, so let's talk about those posts, and that's interesting and probably sensible. I mean, it makes sense on a lot of levels. what happened was this, and we talked about this yesterday. There was a series of shootings in Minnesota over the weekend involving two of their state lawmakers. A senator and his wife were shot and injured. A representative, really one of the more powerful representatives, was shot and killed with her husband. And the individual involved in that was charged both federally and statewide. Yesterday, he appeared in court. Mike Lee posted some comments about this on his
personal account, Mike Lee account.
Yeah, and one of them said, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way," and another one had a picture of the victims, I believe, and with a post that said "Nightmare on Waltz Street" in reference to the Minnesota governor.
Yeah, earlier we had a reporter who approached him and asked him about these posts.
Do you stand by the post that you made on X?
And he walked away. He didn't say a word about it, and that sort of continued for quite some time. Cami Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent, joined us earlier, and she spoke about the confrontation Mike Lee experienced with a senator, Tina Smith.
So yesterday, while we were waiting for senators to come to the Senate in the evening, Tina Smith basically wasn't commenting to anyone in the hallways, saying that she was looking for Mike Lee. After she had a conversation, she basically said that she approached him, told him that what he did was not okay, it was not funny. She kind of said that he seemed surprised, actually, to be confronted, that he wasn't expecting it, that he didn't necessarily apologize or really have a reason for why he posted, but she was very clearly upset about the whole situation.
So Senator Tina Smith is from Minnesota, and she had some very strong feelings about this. So as far as I have seen so far, Senator Lee has not made a statement about taking down those tweets. He has not made an apology. He has not talked to media, but he has gotten, like we said, a lot of backlash nationally from including other representatives and other senators. So the other senator from Minnesota is Amy Klobuchar, and she condemns Mike Lee for his behavior and says she intends to speak with him about his post once she gets back to D.C.
This isn't funny what happened here. This was an incredible woman, her husband, her two kids yesterday on Father's Day. There was no Father's Day for them. They lost both their parents.
Yeah, and as we said at the top of this segment, Mike Lee has now removed those posts from his social media account. They don't exist anymore. I don't know how you found out about it.
I looked on X. They're not there anymore.
Okay, because that would have happened within the last little while.
The last couple of hours, yeah. They were there this morning when we started our show at 9 o'clock. They are not there now, so he still has other posts. He's continuing to post on his Mike Lee personal account. He did have one tweet over the weekend. This was on Sunday, June 15th, from his official Senator Mike Lee account, where he said, "These hateful attacks, and in plural, have no place in Utah, Minnesota, or anywhere in America. Please join me in condemning this senseless violence and praying for the victims and their families," which seems to be an appropriate response.
Absolutely, right. And maybe the removal of the, I won't call them inappropriate, but questionable responses it makes a lot of sense too. Not necessarily far. Maybe a step toward an apology. Maybe it doesn't warrant an apology. I'm not trying to opine one way or the other, but the backlash that he received and the comments that he received, mostly from Democrats, was of such a nature that maybe it wasn't worth taking up the fight anymore. And he probably felt. And I know Mike Lee. He's a professional. He's a lawyer. He's been around. He does a lot for Utah. Maybe he thought it just wasn't worth continuing this battle.
Look, sometimes, in fact, we know this happens a lot. Senators are really busy. They have staff that post things. We don't know for sure if this was actually Senator Lee or his staff. He definitely had been asked about it multiple times. In fact, the confrontation, or at least the walking away where he would not answer the question from a reporter, it was also videotaped, and he had staff members trying to hold up a binder in front of the camera so that they couldn't even take a picture of Senator Lee. But yeah, I mean, at some point you start to get so much backlash. He's having Republicans say he needs to resign. I haven't seen necessarily Republican legislators, but for example, Michael Steele, who used to be the head of the RNC, he said basically grow the heck up. There just have been a number of people saying you just need to step down. This is rises past the level of censure to some people and saying you just need to resign. This is absolutely unacceptable.
And I've practiced law for a number of years, and you see situations where people in court accused of a crime or something like that, and I just the notion of covering your face when the media is there, especially, I mean, he's a senator. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows who's walking down the hall. And maybe it was his staff that was doing that and thinking that they were helping him. That's not a look that's good. That's not a look that you want to have from U.S. Senator.
Right. I mean, sometimes you have to acknowledge that you were wrong. So initial reports about the shooter were that he was affiliated with the Democratic Party. We now know that that's not true. But sometimes we, on social media especially, we act in haste. And sometimes we need to take a step back and either think about what we post beforehand, or we can say, look, I misjudged this. I apologize and try to do better. And a Minnesota Republican representative actually said that. So he's not a Democrat, right? He's saying, look, you need to apologize and do better.
And we don't know all of the motivations for this killer. We do know that he had some 70 names on his, I won't call it a manifesto, but he had a list of people that he was apparently targeting. Almost all of those were Democrats. It seems that as though he was very concerned about abortion as an issue that was, he called it murder. And these may have been politicians who voted and supported ideas that were contrary to his thoughts, and he felt that he needed to do something. He even told other individuals that this was the end. He was almost given the impression that he was going to go out with a bang.
He texted his family and said, Daddy started a war, right? And he texted his wife separately and said, some stuff's going to go down and I don't want you anywhere around our home when this happens. And so her car, she ended up being pulled over. Her car, they found $10,000 worth of cash and passports in her vehicle. So we know that he knew some stuff was going down, right? The alleged perpetrator of these crimes, but again, the response to call him out and say, well, this is what happens when we have Marxists, right? Or trying to mock the governor about this. I think it's really been problematic for Senator Lee.
Yeah, and when we talked about the indictment earlier, we talked about the parallels between this one and the Luigi Mangione. And I'm wondering if this individual felt, the Minnesota killer, that he would be held as a martyr a little bit, or that he would be applauded. I mean, it seems like...
I don't know,
right?
I guess I don't know motivations for people who justify killing by saying, I'm pro-life, therefore I will murder people. I don't understand those motivations.
Yeah, I don't either. And I don't think that he is going to get the kind of, I don't know, I won't call it love, but the
notoriety.
Kind of attention, notoriety that Mangione got. When we come back, some 50,000 people attended Red Bull's soapbox races in Salt Lake City over the weekend. Of course, they were overshadowed by a number of other things going on in Salt Lake, but some thrill seekers raced down the streets in a homemade go-karts. We're going to talk about that, and along with Holly's facts of the day after the break.
Attention RVers! In 57 years, Motorsportsland has never had a sale like this before. We've got over 100 new models coming in and our lots are already almost full. We've got to clear out inventory fast, so we've selected over 100 new travel trailers, fifth wheels, and toy haulers to sell to you at or below dealer cost. Like our 2024 Encore Venue off-road travel trailer, MSRP at $30,000, normally priced at $25,000, dealer cost at $22,400, and this week only priced to you for below $17,000 with amazing financing options. Or our 2024 28-foot Stealth toy hauler fifth wheel, MSRP at $99,330, normally priced at $83,500, this week only $67,743. Save more than ever before on your dream RV, but these deals are disappearing quick, so visit a Motorsportsland RV Center today.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 2021, Ace Handyman Services Salt Lake City East has delivered quality workmanship to homeowners across Utah. With competitive rates and a wide range of services, they're ready to tackle any home repair or maintenance task. Franchise owner Brent Anderson joins us with more.
At Ace Handyman Services, we're a proud, locally owned and operated franchise serving the Salt Lake City metro area. As part of the Ace Hardware brand, our team of skilled craftsmen specializes in high-quality home improvement and repair services tailored to your needs. We handle a wide range of tasks, including drywall repair, painting, carpentry, fixture installation, and deck repair. Whether it's a minor fix or a more extensive job, we approach every homeowner with care, precision, and attention to detail. We understand the unique needs of properties in our region and are committed to delivering dependable, professional service you can trust. In addition to residential work, Ace Handyman also provides comprehensive services for commercial properties, making us a reliable partner for local businesses. Contact us today to schedule your service. You will experience the craftsmanship and customer care that makes us your go-to home ally.
Whether you need a one-time repair or ongoing maintenance, Ace Handyman Services is ready to help you out with dependable, professional service. Learn more or contact them at acehandymanservices.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
And expanded Inside Sources.
This weekend, Holly, 50,000 people braved the heat in Salt Lake to flood Main Street near Utah's Capitol Hill to watch the first Red Bull in Utah, this is Red Bull soapbox race, and they watched dozens of thrill seekers fly down the hill in homemade go-karts. I've seen some pictures of these. They're wild, and I have to say, had I been close by, I probably would have gone by, although 50,000 people is quite a crowd.
It's a lot, and unfortunately it was overshadowed by the sad news later in the day, right? We had the shootings in Minnesota in the morning, and then the shooting at the No Kings rally in the evening, and so we kind of lost the fun excuse me, about this soapbox derby. I actually had to look up the definition of a soapbox derby, and it's a non-motorized form of transportation that only uses gravity to get it down the hill,
like the old Pinewood derbies,
right.
Except they were more straightforward.
But you
this
have
is
to
like,
ride it.
yeah, you gotta jump in and you gotta make it from home. Our KSL TV's Alex Cabrera was there. He talked to one of the contestants, Allison Tardif, who talked about her friends building a replica of the ninth whale.
My dad and I used to watch the Red Bull soapboxes on TV, and we would always be like, what would you do if you were in the race? And the day my partner actually figured out that there were applications open, he was like, we should apply. I texted my dad and I said, what should we do? And he said, bring the whale. And it was like perfect because we all live right now 5 minutes from the whale. We see the whale every day. And we were like, what better thing than to like bring the signal of our neighborhood to the race, be ourselves unapologetically.
And she was asked, well, is the goal to win? And she said, not exactly.
This has been a blast. This has been a really, really special time. I'm going to think about it forever and ever and ever and ever. And I'm going to like put it on a resume. It's like it's the coolest thing I've ever done. It's been amazing.
It sounds like it was amazing. And the way she was asked about the whale itself, why that?
There's nothing better than the whale. I love the whale. She is the signal of the beautiful and vibrant community that Salt Lake has to offer, especially 9th and 9th. It really does crop up out of the blue with unapologetic passion, and I really love that about my neighborhood.
That's really great. And the Deseret News actually has a whole photo gallery from that day, and there's so many smiles. There's a lot of laughing. I like this caption on one of the photos. There's one of the guys who rode down the hill. He's the brakeman, I guess. I don't even know how you break these things, but BRAKE. But he calls himself, he's a crash test dummy number 2, right? As he's riding down the hill on these things and just trying to get down the street in one piece. And they actually create kind of an obstacle course. So you've got to go around some corners and you've got to go over some bumps. And literally some of the descriptions are things were falling apart as they were going down the hill and they're trying to hold on to the pieces.
But that's so fun. And I hope nobody was hurt. But you had, so in addition to building the contraption, you had to do a couple of things. You had to make it really interesting. I'm seeing one guy who makes it like a 6-foot beehive that he's riding down on almost a trike. But it also has to be operable. You have to be able to get down the hill. And I assume because it was Capitol Hill, there had to be some braking. Like you say,
that's
the brake. That's a
steep
hill. You don't want to go flying into although they did have these huge hay bales, so I'm sure that they got some action too as contestants went into the hay. And this would have been fun to watch. It would have been so much fun and such a break from what we've been talking about.
I know.
If you're going to go to Salt Lake,
do something fun, man.
Yeah, peaceful protest is good. It's a great thing to do. But stop and watch the soapbox races while you're down there as well.
You can see dragons and the beehive, as you mentioned, and the whale on 9th and 9th. Just really great stuff.
So what's our fact?
Okay, fun fact of the day. Today, it's National Eat Your Vegetables Day, and I was thinking about this. When I married my husband, he did not like vegetables. And as it turned out, it had to do with the way they had been prepared while he was growing up. And so he now will eat most vegetables. I have a couple that I really, really dislike. I do not like okra. I think it's just disgusting.
Oh, I love it. I really like it. I don't know. It's not much different than others, but I really like it.
Well, what do you have a favorite or something you don't eat?
I love asparagus.
Yeah,
I absolutely love asparagus. Carrots are okay as long as they're cooked a little bit. I'm not a fan of raw carrots. I'm not a fan of broccoli at all. George Bush and I sort of agreed with that. My wife loves it. So we kind of share. We kind of do the thing. We had corn on the cob last night, which was amazing. There's nothing better than corn on the cob in the summer. But yeah, National Eat Your Vegetables Day. I would say this. My wife's a great cook. She always includes a grain. She always includes a vegetable. She always includes a protein. You know what I mean? Maybe that's how you're supposed to. Yeah, maybe you're supposed to do that. But she always has a vegetable, and she picks most of the time. She knows what I like and don't like, but she knows I like my veggies a little more cooked than she does.
Yeah, interesting. I think I find broccoli to be a little, like it's almost a little sharp unless it's just a little bit cooked, and then it's okay. It's also National Apple Strudel Day. So have you ever had apple strudel?
I have. I love apple strudel.
It's got pastry dough, right?
Yes. So my wife can't eat it because she's celiac. But yeah, apple strudel is really good. That's interesting. How do you find these things? What are you looking at? I don't know where you find the national.
So you can go. It's actually a website. It's called nationaltoday.com, and I go there for just for fun facts because there is so much heavy news all the time. almost every day has at least one food thing a day. You just mentioned you ate corn on the cob, and last week we had National Corn on the Cob Day. We talked about that. I spent some time in Europe, and in Europe, at least when I lived there, corn was for animals, right? It was animal feed. It was not human food. They didn't eat it. But yeah, that's where I go. And there's things like today, in addition to National Apple Strudel Day, it is, and remember yesterday was National Fudge Day, but it's actually Bunker Hill Day. So if you remember from the of course, the Revolutionary War, Bunker Hill was a big deal, and it was the Revolutionary War battle happened there on June 17th, 1775.
So if you go to Bunker Hill and you bring some vegetables and what was the other thing?
Apple strudel.
Apple strudel
on June 17th.
On June 17th. What a great way to spend the day.
People will look at you like you're weird.
People will think you're having fun. That's great. Bunker Hill Day.
Yeah. So yesterday we talked about the Highland cattle that are available for petting, and is there do you have a favorite animal? I do, but I've never
to eat
pet one. No. To pet or just a favorite animal in general. I'll tell you, mine is the elephant, and I'll tell you why. So they're very matriarchal, and I love that about them. They grieve their dead. I love that about them. And they actually support each other. The women, the female elephants, support each other when one of them is in labor, having after the end of a 2-year pregnancy. So that is my favorite. I love elephants.
So this isn't my favorite, but I need to make up for something because earlier we were talking about animals. We were talking about dogs sleeping in your bed,
right?
And I've said the very foolish thing. I'm not a big dog fan. My wife was like, "You need to clear that up right now." So I love my dogs. They're great. I have 2, and they're wonderful. We take them hiking. We go out in the hills. We do things. I've never wanted a dog. I've never even thought it would be fun to have a dog. But now that we have them, listeners, I do like my dogs. They're great. Stay out of the bed. Stay out of the bed. Stay out of the bedroom. But they're fun. And I mean, the interaction that you have with an animal, it's good for your health. It's good for everything.
Yeah, and I think I told you that day when we were talking about should dogs sleep in your beds that I was a no on dogs for 25 years, and now we have this little Maltipoo. He's 12 and a half pounds. He is the cutest thing, and I talk to him like I talk to my babies. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, my little boy, right? and he hugs us. He's the cutest thing. We come home, and he acts like you've been gone for 10 years, and he just is so excited to see you when you come back. It's great.
What I learned, because my wife and I got married later in life after we both had raised our children, was that we sort of raising the dogs. I have an idea now that how it would have been to raise children together. I'm not saying it would have been good or bad, but we do have different styles in how we do things. Okay, so as we lead out, I have forgotten twice in a row now that I'm supposed to introduce a Midday with Maria Chaleos, who I love. She's up next with the latest developments on the person working as a, quote, peacekeeper this weekend. There is a lot to be said about that, and we're going to be learning more and more about what a peacekeeper is. This was at the No Kings rally in Salt Lake City, where sadly one person was shot and killed over the weekend. Stay with us on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt